I was actually going to wait until we reach a halfway point, but it's actually so good that I thought, why not? Hello and welcome to Talk About Drama, where we talk about what's hot and what's not in the drama world. And today we're going to talk about The First Frost, Nanhong, a currently airing 32 episode Chinese drama, and it's actually so good. I was not expecting it. So as of now, 14 episodes have been broadcasted on Youku, and I believe Netflix has 10. It's in the process of catching up, so it's gonna be a while. And it's led by Bai Jingting as Sang Yan and Zhang Ruonan as Wen Yifan. And I'm surprisingly really enjoying it because I watched Hidden Love before with Zhao Lucy and Chen Zhiyan. And yes, out of the two, First Frost is actually more of a mature drama, whereas Hidden Love is more of a coming-of-age drama because you watch Sang Ji, Sang Yan's younger sister, as she grows up and, she gets into a relationship and her conflicts with her family and everything. Whereas over here, it's from Wen Yifan's perspective. So she is the person that Sang Yan, Sang Ji's brother, is in love with, and how Wen Yifan and Sang Yan sort of grow up from being high school students to working adults and, the journey that they go through essentially. So I was seeing some discord on the internet about how they were finding a discord between Sang Yan in Hidden Love and Sang Yan in First Frost. And it's actually the narrator's perspective that you're seeing. So in Hidden Love, the narrator was Sang Ji, a child who's seeing her brother. And in First Frost, the narrator is Wen Yifan, relatively an adult woman who's seeing a fellow classmate. So Sang Yan is Sang Ji's brother. Obviously, there's different dynamics, and Wen Yifan wasn't really romantically interested in Sang Yan in the beginning. They were more of desk mates, and her perspective, her outlook of Sang Yan would obviously be different than, that of a sibling. So obviously Sang Yan would be much more different when you see his traits as portrayed by Wen Yifan. But Sang Yan still does silly things like bribe his sister and make her pretend to be lost so that he can take Wen Yifan on an ice cream date. So he's still the silly Sang Yan, but he's more of a mature version rather than the silly version, and there's actually a reason behind it, which is kind of really sad. So it's a difference in perspective, first of all, and second of all, First Frost tackled darker themes rather than Hidden Love, where it's Sang Ji who's growing up. And I think we can all agree that Sang Yan and Sang Ji, they come from a relatively privileged background when compared to, say, Duan Jiashu or Wen Yifan. So there's also a difference of environment in terms of how they've grown up, what kind of hardship they've seen in their life. I'm not saying they haven't. It's just a different kind. And they've all obviously overcome it and, they've become the adults that we see on screen. So let's talk about it. One thing that really drew me to The First Frost was the way Wen Yifan was portrayed, because more often than not, trauma victims, especially when the female leads are portrayed as somebody who's resilient, but she has a very positive outcome in her life, and she's more of a happy-go-lucky, so she's essentially brushing over her trauma and repressing it to the point of just completely bowling over her personality and, pasting that happy smile 24/7 so that she can heal the wounds of the male lead character. But over here, we have Wen Yifan, who was an introverted character to begin with, and now, after everything that she's been through, she's severely introverted to the point of completely closing off herself. And those traumas have almost made her detached from society. So she's just going through the motions. So she's trying to live her life the best that she could. However, that experience has made her retrieve into her shell so much that she's essentially become untouchable or cold to other people because she's repressed it to the point of sleepwalking. Like, her trauma is being reflected on her sleepwalks. She's not able to process it properly because if she lets go, if she breaks down, that's it for her. Because as a child, she was moving around. So once her father died, her remarried mother, left to the devices of her aunt who shipped her to her grandmother. And while the grandmother was alive, she was fine. But once the grandmother passed away as well, Wen Yifan had to live with her aunt. And it wasn't exactly a pleasing experience really because the aunt mistreated her, didn't properly feed her, and it went to the point that she was sexually assaulted, almost sexually assaulted in that house. And at the end of it, nobody stood up for her. her trauma was just brushed through. Oh, he was just drunk, he might have walked into your room mistakenly, and even her own mother didn't stay or stand up for her or take her daughter with her. And that sort of shaped her personality of repressing stuff inside of her. It got to a point where she was supposed to go to the same university as Sangyeon, and she changed her mind at the last moment and she went to a faraway university just so she can get away from everybody, because she didn't want that trauma to define her life anymore, and she wanted to move away from these people. And at the same time, she didn't want her traumas to sort of overshadow Sangyeon, because to her he was this bright and amazing person that deserved everything. And then imposter syndrome set in after a while, because, you know, to her it's like, who am I and who is he? And even though he loves me, I don't think I can measure up to him. And that sort of made her back off and go to Faraway University and just change her choice at the last moment. And that was when Sangyeon and Enifan broke up, even though they hadn't really been together. And I went in without reading the novel or reading the comic, the manhwa, and I just went in blind because I really didn't want to be spoiled. And I didn't really expect them to build up on the story of Sangyeon and Enifan, because I thought it was a first love situation and Sangyeon fell in love with at first glance. It's an infatuation that sort of developed over time, and, you know, they broke up, and that's something that left a scar on him. However, when you watch the drama, you realize it wasn't a first glance. It was something that they built up over time. They studied together. Even when Enifan switched schools, she was in Beiyou and Sangyeon was in Nanwoo, so he traveled almost every weekend, I believe, to study along with her. They made promises to go to the same university. Sangyeon skipped school and followed Enifan when he saw that something was wrong with her, and he was there when her father died. He was there when Enifan was being mistreated by her family. He was listening to everything. However, he was helpless on his own, so he decided to make himself something that could stand by her side and ensure that she's not mistreated in the future. So it's not out of nowhere Sangyeon just didn't fall in love with Enifan and Miko and his entire personality. It developed over time, and you can actually see it in front of your eyes. So the perspective is non-linear. So in the beginning of the episode, you have a little bit from the past, and then you have your future going on. And at the end of the episode, sometimes they show you the past bits, and sometimes it's a continuation of the episode, which I really, really liked. Because he's showing us that Sangyeon didn't just fall for Enifan as a face, as, a pretty person or somebody who was introverted and, he found her interesting. No, he saw a girl. He saw somebody who had dreams, who had hopes. She wanted to dance. She was happiest when she was dancing. And she was a person for him. And he saw how she was repressed from all sides, how fate dealt her with a bad hand. And the situation forced her to give up the things that she loved, and he wanted the best for her. And it wasn't something that he saw her and he decided to do the best for her. No, he was there for her journey, because it's a promise from Sangyeon that, I will be there for you. And Enifan herself acknowledges that her leaving Nanwoo was so she could distance herself from everybody else. But then when she had trouble at work, and at that point she gave up. Like, why am I here? Why did I leave everything and come so far? Like, I hate the city because I'm not really close with my dorm mates. I'm not really close with anybody. I'm alone, essentially, over here, whereas I had a whole life over there. I had friends. And so she decides to go back and restart her life in Nanwoo once again. And she comes face to face with Sangyeon, who is sort of pretending not to know her and playing it cool, because when the last time they saw each other, Enifan told him, I don't like it. I don't like you clinging to me. I don't like you coming over every single time. I made a promise to somebody to go to Yeeha University, and that's why I'm not going to Nanwoo. And it stuck with him because he said, am I a second choice to you? And so he played it cool with her because he didn't want to be too forceful, too pushy, and sort of drive her away a second time. And you can actually see in Sangyeon's character that, once he has a goal in mind, he's not leaving it. He's not leaving her, actually. And when she comes to the city, she's faced with issues where she's currently living, and a guy tries to assault her. And she saves herself in the nick of the time. And, they go to the police, he's arrested, but then he's released and he comes back for revenge. And Sangyeon happens to be dropping her off, and, he sort of rescues her from the situation, and they end up in the police station. And then when Yifan moves houses and becomes a housemate with one of the people that she works with, but then that lady leaves and eventually Sangyeon ends up being her roommate. So it was actually a really convenient coincidence for Sangyeon that his house burned down in a fire and he was forced to look for another apartment. Like I actually thought, like, at the back of my mind, Sangyeon, did you set your apartment on fire just so you can cohabitate? But yeah, they end up becoming roommates actually, and it was actually so nice to see Sangyeon just in the kitchen 24/7, not 24/7, but in the kitchen and cooking up meals, because he knows that Benny Fan was not able to eat properly when she was living with her aunt, and it was something that really stayed with him. Because when he followed her to her house to leave a book and he heard her aunt saying that, we feed you enough, and he had an inkling that, she's not eating properly, she's not being treated properly, and he wanted to make sure, she's cared for. And he does that in a way that he props himself up. I accidentally made an extra portion. I accidentally ordered more than I wanted to, and just finish it so it doesn't go bad. And it's an indirect way of taking care of her, because he's seen the circumstances that she's come from, even when she was renting in the city before she moved into this apartment. And he's seen the situations that she was since she was in high school, and he wants the best for her. So he's made himself the best version he could. And it actually shows that. But also at the same time, you can see that when Yifan trusts him so much, because she's wary of other people. And this happened twice when people at work, men especially at work, tried touching her, maybe out of malicious intent, maybe not, and she responded by swatting in a way and literally just backing off, because that's a fight or flight response that usually happens in trauma victims. And that didn't happen with Sangyeon, because he's someone that she's comfortable with. He's someone that would never harm her in her mind. His touch is never unwelcome. At one point, even when Yifan is thinking, did I not get over him? Why is this touch the only touch that I can bear? Why is he different? And I was like, because she has a personality that's shaped up by her life experiences. It's not just randomly that she's happy or randomly that she's very. You've seen her journey as somebody who's been abused, as somebody who's gone through life on her own, who has to be wary of these situations. And you've seen that shape up her character. Like, yes, when Yifan is introverted, yes, she sometimes lets go of things that she really should stand up for. However, she does take a stand for herself where required. And that really makes her resilience shine. Especially when she visited her mum's house and she saw her aunt coming downstairs, and she immediately jerked up on guard because she's afraid of this woman. In her body, she can feel the fear, even though she's probably feeling rage. And she tells her mum, think of me as dad, think of me as good as dad. And that really stayed with me, because usually when you have such storylines, you have the child character sort of try and make up to the mother and try and understand the mother, try and be there with the mother, like not outright being rude to her, even though the mother character has done terrible things to her, just in the name of having that maternal love. But over here, she's willing to cut ties. She's willing to move on. She's willing to stand up for herself. And the same thing happens when her mum visits her at work in episode 14, I believe. And she's like, how did you get in here? And she's like, I'm your mum. And then she's like, is it because you're my mum that my feelings don't matter to you? And when she saw that, her mum's past caring about what she's going to say, and because she's going to do what she wants to do, she just takes the food and she walks away. She's like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, since you're obviously not going to listen to me. Because to her, that chapter is closed. To her mother letting the aunt come into the house and actually confronting her face to face, even after she knew what happened, was just the tipping point, and she's ready to break off the connection. And that's something that you don't really get to see these days, because women either need to be happy-go-lucky, be strong, but have a positive outlook, or just be revengeful maniacs. Whereas when Yifan is just trying to live her life, she's just trying to survive one day at a time. She's just going through the motions, and you can see it in her actions. You can see it in the way she carries herself. You can see it in the way she dresses, because usually people around her are like dressed properly in dresses and all, and she's like wearing long sleeves shirts, long pants, because it's a defense mechanism for her, and she doesn't want to expose too much where people would go after her, because she is a beautiful woman, and people will go after, you're trying to seduce me and everything. So she doesn't want that. And I would assume, staying at her aunt's house, she would have a few injuries when she was a high school student, and she would usually wear long sleeves clothes to sort of hide it, and it just became a habit. And her trauma is reflected in the way that she starts sleepwalking talking when she is really stressed out or when she encounters events from her past that could lead to potential stressful situations. Although I really hope they address it at some point and she actually goes and gets some psychiatric help for it, because I know in Asian cultures getting psychiatric help isn't a big priority, but I do hope, since we are trying to tackle these issues, we do see her going to a proper hospital and actually talking to a doctor about it. So let's see. I'm not trying to read the novel right now. I'm just trying to sort of watch it with an empty mind and just sort of read the novel and the manga later, because I know they changed some things. I just don't want to know too much of it. Although I don't like the way they increased the role of Soo Ha-eun's family, because apparently it's not in the original novel, so I'm not sure why they're doing that. Is it because they want to show that, even after so many years they've fallen apart, but over here there's Sang-yeon, who's been pining for Veni Fan for so many years, but he's just on a straight line. After 8 years, he's still the same Sang-yeon, he's still after Veni Fan, and sort of showing them, love prevails and all. I don't know. I don't want to know, because it's actually a little bit boring. I'd rather much prefer watching The Friends, watching Sang-ji and Dwon Ja-soo. And there are a lot of Easter eggs in Hidden Love as well, where Sang-yeon drinks himself into oblivion because he got dumped. He essentially got left behind by Veni Fan, and Sang-ji and her parents are dealing with him. And you hear it from somebody else in First Frost as well. So that was a really nice callback, because Sang-yeon obviously is different to Sang-ji and Veni Fan. But Sang-yeon was still Sang-yeon. He was still dealing with heartbreak. He was still the guy that got left behind. So that was a really nice callback. And we still have 16 episodes to go, and looking at the emojis, I do believe they would get together on episode 18. So the second half of it is just going to be them dating and sort of overcoming the challenges of the relationship. So they follow the novel properly and not take shortcuts or try and introduce new characters, or even if they do, just make it a proper drama. Because I remember reading the First Frost novel is by the same author as When I Fly Towards You, which is my favorite sea drama of all time. And Hidden Love is obviously written by her as well. So First Frost has Jang Myeoi, who is the female lead in When I Fly Towards You, and she's the second female lead here. And it's obviously a sister drama to Hidden Love, so you have Sang-ji and Dwon Ja-soo and all of the people from Hidden Love as well. So it's they're tying in everything in a nice such a universe. So that was actually kind of funny. But yeah, don't introduce new characters that just do more harm than good, really. Because Moo Chung-yoon is not really working out for me. At first, I thought he's somebody who could become a good friend to Veni Fan and sort of help her break out of her shell, or just sort of help her understand her feelings for Sang-yeon, because, he went to university with Sang-yeon and, Sang-yeon was his senior and everything. However, his conduct, it's appalling, because on one hand he's telling Veni Fan to sort of stand up for herself and cut people off and cut off a bad habit of sort of letting people walk over her, but on the other hand he's also doing the same thing. He's forcing his feelings on her when she's clearly rejecting him, and that includes just going to her house unannounced, uninvited, because she was previously looking for a roommate, and go in and attack Sang-yeon and sort of make up words of what he said, during graduation, and sort of try and portray Sang-yeon in a bad light, because he had a first love that he couldn't forget. So when Fan would sort of back off and leave, and it escalated to the point where he tried to touch Veni Fan, because he was you have something on you, and she literally swatted him away. And hopefully that gives him the hint that, you're not welcome over here. And, that girl who's an intern as well, she's giving him weird glances. So I hope that doesn't escalate to some jealousy fights, because Veni Fan is clearly not interested. And that guy is just trying to impose his feelings on her when she's not even giving him the time of the day. So I hope they don't go there, but let's see. And hopefully they show us more of Sang-yeon and him growing up, even though it's going to be more of a second-hand account of how he handled himself during the time when he and Veni Fan were separated. But I really hope that we get to know more about this guy, because Sang-yeon in himself, he's a different character, because he's obviously grown up in an environment where he's received love from his parents, and from the way they handled the whole early romance rumor situation at school, they do appear to be people who actually have modern thinking, so they're more free thinkers and letting the kid go. And Sang-yeon, having grown up in that environment, he's he's always received love. So he's more than happy to sort of pass on that love to Wen Yifan and make sure that she receives love as well, because that's something that he's grown up seeing and understanding, like how he spent the time apart from Wen Yifan and how he was coping up, because we saw that he went to Yi He the day Wen Yifan quit her job and, you know, walked out of that company. And so he must have known something was happening with her and he must have kept tabs on her. So it would be nice to see and understand how Sang-yeon coped up after Wen Yifan left for Yi He, and, you know, he went to Nanwoo, because we already saw him, Do and Jashu, meet for the first time as dorm mates. And, you know, in Hidden Love, we have fun of the dorm mates get married and, you know, they go to the banquet where Do and Jashu lives with Sungji, and Sang-yeon's girlfriend was going to come around, so I hope they show us that as well. So Wen Yifan going to that banquet, and I really hope to see Wen Yifan and Sang-yeon's wedding, because in Hidden Love they sort of showed us their proposal, but over here I would really love to see the wedding and, you know, Don Jashu and Sungji attending as well, because I believe by the time they had the proposal, Sang-yeon wasn't married to Wen Yifan, so hopefully we get to see them as well. And, you know, Don Jashu is coming to congratulate his best friend and future brother-in-law, and then there's Sungji who's like, I knew it. Dude, she's so nice and she's so cute, and she's a typical sister who snitched on her brother the first chance she got. Really, really love the dynamics in First Frost, and obviously Hidden Love is like gold. Comedy done for siblings, because I can completely understand. So I really hope that, you know, we get to see more of that as well, because we saw hints of those when Sungji decided to go to Yi He University, which is Wen Yifan's alma mater, and the place she suddenly chose as her first choice and left Sang-yeon behind for. And to Sang-yeon, Yi He is like his mortal enemy. So Sungji, his own sister, choosing to leave Nanwoo and go there rather than his own alma mater is just an imperial crime, and he sort of went off on her and got really sulky about it. And, you know, that sort of made Wen Yifan realise the impact her decision had on him, because, you know, he's reacting so badly, and just hearing his sister going to the same university as her, just imagine the kind of impact he would have had the first time when she went away and he had to cope up and stay over here because he's a university kid and he had no money, no job, no perspective, so he had to stay in Nanwoo, go to university and try to make a name for himself. I do hope we do get a chance to see them properly as a couple, and not to get the story wrapped up in like the last 2-3 episodes and just meander the entire season with like different characters joining in randomly. So hopefully we actually get to see Sang-yeon and Wen Yifan enjoy their life as a couple, because they really deserve it. Wen Yifan and Sang-yeon deserve the world, and hopefully we get to see it. And it's got a beautiful OST as well. Like, I believe Crispy, the name of the singer, like I just Shazammed it and it's on my Spotify. But that OST is so beautiful, and, you know, the drama itself is so beautifully shot, because you can see that they have money compared to Hidden Love. However, in the beginning, those cut shots when they were switching back and forth from high school Sang-yeon and Wen Yifan to the modern day Sang-yeon and Wen Yifan, it just sort of gave me a headache, because they weren't really that well done. Either you use match cuts or you use running cuts, so it's transition in the direction that they're walking, or either you cut it to the exact characters walking, or you cut it in the direction that they're walking in or to or from, so, you know, to sort of make it easier to understand, because it's an abrupt cut because they're walking one direction and then when it cuts to the other one, someone's coming from the other direction, which I really didn't appreciate. However, you know, it was just like the first 3-4 episodes and then they went back to the normal transition, so it's not a big thing, but it took me out for a little bit because I don't know what they were trying to do with it. The cinematography is really beautiful. Like, they've spent pretty penny on this, but those cuts really, really annoyed me. Let's just say that. I would probably make an episode once First Frost finish airing, which is in about 2 weeks if the Yoku schedule holds up. But let's see, because they are skipping an episode in the middle, and the fun episode it is really, really frustrating me, because give me the whole season, just like make it SVBVIP and I'll pay for it. I'll really pay for it. But just give it to me, because I don't think I can stay for another 2-3 weeks and just like patiently wait for it to air, because I really wanted it to pile up the episodes, but then I watched the first 5 in one go. Like, it was really bad of me, like I really shouldn't have done that, but I did, and I regretted it because there was only like 5 more episodes to go, and when I was on the 10th episode I was like, shit, what do I do now? So let it pile up if you haven't started it yet, and if you have, good luck to you, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.